everybody? How's everybody doing? You're good for one more presentation? All right, awesome. My name's Kim Morganello. I'm a Water Resource Associate for Clemson Extension. Does anybody know what Extension is? All right, good. So Clemson is a land-grant university. So what that means is it's three-pronged. It's education, which is that kind of traditional way we think about a university. It's research, and then it's extension. And extension is essentially bringing the university to the people, bringing science-based information to the communities of South Carolina for the betterment of South Carolina's economy and natural environment. So I wanted to talk to y'all today about, I've been in every single one of the nature-based exchange workshops. Big kudos to our planning team. You guys are amazing. This has just been incredible. I've had a lot of great conversations and learned so much through this. And from that, I've really seen that there's a lot of opportunity for us to recognize synergy, for us to see moments of momentum, places for us to network, and also places for improvement. And I wanted, Liz reached out to me to present on this because I think this is some infrastructure that is in place that is supporting all why we are here today, and that is to encourage more nature-based solutions in our communities. So that kind of 10,000 foot view, right quick, if I can get you to focus on that bottom left map, you see that you know, the whole state is filled in, and that was actually part of a pretty big, right pre-COVID, end of 2019, beginning of 2020, the Clemson Water Resources team was able to essentially double in size. So now we have coverage in every single county in the state. So this is really important, I think, for y'all, because you might have a client who wants to talk about a stormwater pond or something's going on with a dam or any number of things. You can direct them to those people. So you can find those contacts there at the top, that extension/water website. I also wanted to call out the program that's sponsoring lunch today, Carolina Clear. This is a program that I serve as the coordinator for and works with over half of the MS4s, and municipal separate storm sewer systems, local governments in the state. So I think we're up to 46 local governments that we partner with. Town of Somerville here in the front is one of our core partners. But I think this is important because in those regional approaches, there's a lot of resources there that are really focused on watershed stewardship. So in those different consortium areas, we create a strategic approach in which we decide, working through collaboration with those local governments and local partners, what are the pollutants of concern? What are the things that are most degrading water quality in our communities? And what are the contributing factors? How can we address those contributing factors through education? So there's a lot of resources that come out of that. This is my last part on that program because I really want to get into the targeted training programs that we have. But we have a lot of resources, fact sheets, publications on diverse range of, establishing a vegetative buffer, to floating wetlands, to rain gardens, and on, as well as demonstration sites, workshops, programs, mass media, et cetera, et cetera. So it's been a very, I think, impactful program for South Carolina. All right, so kind of, I did want to mention our compliance-based stormwater certification courses, although I will not dwell on this too much. I don't have a lot of involvement with these. Has anybody been through Sepsky or Casper in the room? I know Bo has. Sepsky or Casper. So the federal MPDES permit requires this knowledge-based certification. So a qualified personnel has to be involved. These are on land disturbance projects. And basically our programs adhere to those qualifications. So we're able to certify people in plan review in sediment erosion control, et cetera, through these programs. So it sounds like a lot of y'all are already familiar with that, but I am told that we have participation from every single state in the country has participated in these programs. These are people who are coming to South Carolina for construction projects, and they're learning methods for erosion and sediment control. All right, so getting into what I really wanted to talk to y'all about, this hybrid training approach. This was new to us 2015, so pre-COVID, and we do a lot of programs, a lot of workshops, a lot of presentations, and I was we would get sort of the look in the room of, people were either not able to to get that much information in one sitting, or they wanted more. And so this hybrid training approach really allowed us to sort of go further with people and give them more in-depth information. And this predated COVID by a handful of years, and so we were in really good shape for COVID, and then we were still able to deliver this in-depth information. So the way the hybrid program works is we have an online classroom. It's asynchronous, so our working professionals can access that information at a time and a place that they're choosing. We have within that audio recorded presentations. This is my colleague, Dr. Corey Heaton, giving a presentation here as part of our Master Pond Manager course. We have discussion forums in which we have an instructor who's interacting with those participants. We have weekly quizzes, a course exam, etc. So the online classroom is really this packaged classroom as part of a training offering that we can give people a lot of good information. And then we bring them together for a field day experience. And these are like my favorite days of the year. This is where people are gonna, take out an auger and, delineate a wetland, or design a rain garden to scale using graph paper and colored pencils, or inspect a bioretention cell, etc. So there's a lot of just total hands-on. It's not a lot of instructor talking. It is straight up, we're just going out and we're doing the work. So what are these actual classes? We have, to date, we have 3 sister courses. We have Master Pond Manager, which of course is focused on pond management, both recreational and stormwater ponds. Post-construction B&P Inspector, which I think sits squarely into what we have been talking about here, is that we know that these practices are not going to function as intended unless they are inspected and maintained. And so this class does a pretty deep dive on inspection and recommending maintenance for a diverse array of practices: dry detention, wet detention, bioswales, bioretention, permeable pavement options, green roofs, rainwater harvesting, etc. So that class, the online part, is around 8 weeks. So it's a pretty extensive online class, and then again, excuse me, with that field day. And then Master Rain Gardener, a course that I coordinate. We teach design, construction, installation of rain gardens and rainwater harvesting systems. So how are these courses identified? One of the things I've really loved about working for Clemson Extension is that we can take what we perceive as a need. Is that something that we can address through education and training? And if so, let's take a stab at it and see what the response is. Let's see if we can be effective with it. So this, does anybody know what this map is? I'm sure a number of y'all do. This was research that came out of USC and DNR, SCDNR, in 2015. These are all the ponds, or a majority of the ponds, digitized in the 8 coastal counties. So at that time, in 2015, there were over 21,000 ponds just in 8 coastal counties. The red, what do y'all think the red is? Those are stormwater ponds, right? So those are largely associated with urban, suburban settings. The green is going to be more that recreational farm ponds. We take that, research has shown that those ponds are going to kind of start to show failure roughly around that 10-year mark. And a lot of these started being built in the 90s. I came into Clemson around 2011, and that was right when all the calls were really coming in. And I'm sure a lot of y'all have experienced that as well. We needed a way to train people how to manage and maintain these ponds, because we also know that these ponds, if not properly maintained, can be associated with downstream water quality degradation. We don't want that. So another part about the hybrid courses is that we're really able to cater to diverse audiences, and largely that's going to be a professional, technical track, and then maybe more of a residential track. So Master Pond Manager, those bulleted points, which y'all can't really read, those are the different modules. So each one of those modules might be a week worth of instruction. So we look at recreational pond construction and permitting, fish management, limnology, integrated aquatic pest management, stormwater pond design, inspection, and maintenance, and stormwater pond best management practices. So let's just say you're an HOA, and you're really not interested in the recreational pond, fishing out of your pond, that thing. You really just want to know how to make recommendations to your HOA board. You're going to take that letter of completion course, which is there in the green circle. But what if you're a landowner and you just have, you have a pond you use on your property for fishing? You want to, have kids and grandkids, whoever, be able to go out there and catch fish, but you're not planning on going out and managing anybody else's pond, then you're just going to take the letter of completion for the recreational pond track. But if you're a professional and you're working for a pond management company, or you're doing this for pay as a service, then you're going to go ahead and get that full certificate course, and you're going to become a certified master pond manager. One of the things that's come out of these classes that to me has been really beneficial is these worksheets and guidance documents. So rain gardens, for example, anybody who goes to that class now gets a set of sheets that are really going to guide them through that design process, guide them through site analysis, guide them on amending the soil, guide them on that entire process so they can feel really good about the size of the rain garden and how that rain garden is going to function. Because we want them to function, of course, as intended. As part of the post-construction B&P inspector course, you're going to get forms for inspection and maintenance on each one of those B&Ps. And that's really going to help you, know how often you need to inspect, what you need to be looking for whenever you're going to, a permeable pavement site, et cetera. And then you can pass that information on to the client and say, this is what you need to do to make sure that this is working. And we've actually had some of our local governments adopt that course, post-construction B&P, as required for anybody who's going out and performing inspection and maintenance. Our field days are, bar none, my favorite days of the year. So I'm an instructor for all three of those courses. So it probably ends up being about 10 days out of the year that we're doing field days, give or take, between the three courses. We all know Murphy's Law and South Carolina weather. This is one of my more memorable field days. I'll just kind of throw this in there from B&P inspector. It actually rained during the field day 6 inches. Like not before, not after, during. We got 6 full inches of rain, but y'all would have loved it. It was like one of the funnest days. I don't think anybody was here. Oh, maybe, no. Anyways, we were in, full-on rain gear and just out watching these systems work, watching bioretention cells, watching permeable pavement, dry detention basins, etc. And it was a really fun day. This one here was another memorable day. So at Master Rain Gardener, our field day, we actually design, do all the site assessment, all the design, all the installation in 8 hours. I tell people it's like a cooking show, and you get all the ingredients, and you gotta make tiramisu in 30 minutes. It's like that, except we do it over 8 to 9 hours. And then we have everything in place, and our participants have to go through the entire process during that time. And we actually, for all of these courses, we get people, this is one of the things that excites me and energizes me, is that we get people from up and down the eastern seaboard come to these classes. For Master Rain Gardener, we've had people from Maine to Florida come into town for this class, so there's a lot of interest. Well, this particular day, I had 5 people coming in from New York City, and we had to do the field day because they were just coming in for Master Rain Gardener, and then they were leaving. And the day before, we got a rain bomb, and the site the next morning, there were actual frog eggs where the rain garden was supposed to be. Sorry, Keith, we had to push them aside. But David Pastry, who works with BD, he came out with his pump, and we pumped out the site. I mean, it was a mess, but we pulled it off, and it was a great day. So resiliency, I think, at its best. So anybody who goes to these courses completes all the online class components, takes all the quizzes, passes the exam, participates in the field day, they get a certification, and then they're recognized on our websites. So, if somebody's looking for somebody to manage their pond, we can send them a master pond manager. Looking to have a rain garden designed and installed, we can send them a master rain gardener, etc. So, this is, we hope, is a form of marketing for our professionals, and let's face it, a growing market, something that maybe at one point was sort of fringe and early adopter, and now is becoming more mainstream, and we're having more and more people ask for these services. I want to just touch quickly on our short courses. So these courses are for free. The others are for pay, non-credit course. These are short courses that are for free because they receive some external funding typically. I'll highlight 2. Dam ownership in South Carolina short course. This was made in conjunction with our friends at DHEC and NRCS, and was in direct response to 2015. And I think everybody remembers what happened in 2015. So this is a pretty deep dive on dam maintenance. Alex, were you involved with it? No? Okay, I thought you were, sorry. This is a pretty deep dive into the thousands of regulated and unregulated dams in South Carolina, and how to maintain those and assure that they're functioning as intended, so whenever we do get another big event like that, we don't have that same experience. In the salt marsh short course, we have over 300,000 acres of salt marsh in South Carolina. We like to fight with Georgia, who's got the most salt marsh and who grows the most peaches. But we know it cannot be contested that we have a lot of people moving to coastal South Carolina. We have a lot of development pressure there. We have a lot of people who don't know about the salt marsh and how critical it is. So this is was built in conjunction, Clemson Extension with SCDNR and SEC Grant Consortium. This has 5 learning modules that look at research, ongoing research, ecosystem services, flora and fauna highlights, threats to the salt marsh, and then the stewardship activities, of course. So the way that works is once somebody registers, they have 45 days to complete the course, and then they can request a letter of completion. And we've had a few hundred people go through that in about 2 years' time. Last thing I just wanted to mention is our courses in development. Abby's in the back. She's very familiar with this one. So exciting times in South Carolina. We now have regulatory language to support living shorelines. And so there's a permitting path, or a regulatory framework for people to go through and be able to install a living shoreline adjacent to private property. And not rely solely on revetments, seawalls, etc. So we needed to train people how to do this. And I've got a few of the instructors in the room, Joy, where's Joy, and Rachel, and Liz, and Abby is my co-coordinator on that one. It has been a heavy lift, this one. It's been at least 1.5 years in the making, and the reason for that is because this is new, right? And so we're kind of, we're figuring out the education, but we're also figuring out what this actually looks like. So it's been a really interesting process. You guys probably know this, but if not, any living shoreline that's installed in South Carolina has to have a stamped drawing. in order to go through DHEC. So our engineers in the room and our landscape architects, you will be called upon potentially to design these, but then we also need the marine contractors who can go out and do it. So this course is going to address both of those audiences, as well as our residential audience who maybe just wants to learn more about it because they have an eroding shoreline and they might want to do a living shoreline. So this one we're looking at regulations and permitting, site assessment, method selection. So this is based largely on the research that came out of DNR over 10 years that informed the process, as well as our friends at TNC who've done a lot of this work. But what methods are going to work best based on site conditions. We're going to look at design and construction, maintenance, upland best management practices, communicating with clients, and case studies. So hopefully registration for that, fingers crossed, is coming out this summer. Last course, in my last slide, that I wanted to mention, and this one has a call to action to you all in the room. We have a course in development. It is set to launch at the end of 2023. This is called SPEED. I had to be reminded what that stands for, but it's Stormwater Plan Education for Engineering Design. The learning modules are going to look at regulatory framework, permitting process and requirements, hydrology, sedimentology, design calculation, construction and post-construction BMPs, and low impact development. And this is being created with DHEC and Clemson Extension. I have been tasked with heading up the low impact development module. This is my call to action. Special thanks to Jarrett Bramblett of HDR and Joshua Robinson of RDE for already agreeing to participate in this part. I've got the presentation already together that sort of talks about the practices. It's not a deep dive, but it's a 45-slide presentation. We're going to get into it a little bit. Now what we need to couple that, as we know, as we've talked about, is people, I think, because of the risk, which we talked a lot about in a couple presentations ago, there's some hesitancy to design with these practices. So we really want some South Carolina-based good case studies to showcase. So if anybody has one, and so that's using this nature-based solution approach and adhering to stormwater requirements. So if anybody has a case study, I'm thinking 10, maybe 15 slides. Jared and Joshua, we can talk about what that looks like, but nothing overkill, and we will pay you for your time too, so you'll be compensated for those. So if anybody has a case study, please let me know. I hope you've enjoyed learning a little bit about the Clemson Extension Water Resources team. It is an amazing group of about 20 individuals who are all out doing the good work of watershed stewardship in South Carolina. So please check out our website, email me if you have any questions, and especially email me if you want to provide a case study. Thanks, man.